Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hot Shots Catering podcast. So, this is our very first podcast, and I'm your host, Chris Stano, with HotShotsCatering.com. And, this is going to be something that I wanted to try, been thinking about it for a while, and I'm very happy that we can initially start it. The podcast, before we get started, I just wanted to say, one, thank you for all you guys who are out there following us on social media. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and we're very excited to kind of add this other avenue for us to produce content. With that being said, the content that I would like to produce for podcasts will really be more knowledge-based. So I want to produce things that are kind of more geared towards articles that I've read, things that I think about, and just knowledge of coffee in general, or this industry, for us, the gourmet coffee catering industry, and all the avenues that are affiliated with that, such as conventions, corporate work, weddings, and all that stuff in general. But I think this will be fun, and wherever this ends up, please leave in the comment sections, what you want to see out of this, what you'd like to hear, what you don't like, what you do like, as we go along on this journey together. But I really am anxious to hear what you guys think. So that being said, I want to get right into it here. And the very first thing I want to talk about is actually the only thing I want to talk about is this article that I read last week, and it's from Insider Magazine, and it says the title is "What 6 Baristas Actually Order When They Go to a Coffee Shop." Now, if you are a gourmet coffee enthusiast, if you are someone like me that loves coffee and loves to go explore different coffee shops and see what everyone's doing, see what makes them tick, or if you're someone that just is a foodie, loves food or loves restaurants, and just loves, if you're someone who just loves quality, whatever it is, doesn't even have to be food, then you should enjoy this, and you should understand where I'm coming from reading this article. So basically what I wanted to do is just kind of give you some of my insight with this article based on what these baristas are talking about, and just kind of go through real quickly what they talk about. So the very first one here that they talk about is, sticking to black coffee, or in their phrase, it says, ordering a plain black coffee can reveal a lot about a coffee shop. So a lot of this article, what it has to do with is it has to do with baristas kind of reviewing, I guess the main point of this was, they did this article asking the baristas, what do you order at a coffee shop? Thinking they were going to hear, oh, I get a pumpkin spice latte or an upside down cappuccino. This isn't really about that. This is more about, some of us coffee snobs, putting our noses in the air and saying, well, we challenge who has the best roast, who has the best coffee, who has the best espresso shot in their area of expertise, or in their town, or what have you. So that's really where I think they went with this, and I agree with a lot of it. One of the first things, like I said here, is ordering a plain black cup of coffee can reveal a lot about a shop. And I think that's not even just for coffee shops. I think that's also for restaurants. I got into this business many years ago, and it was partly due to my mother. When we would go to a restaurant, she would ask, first question she would ask is, she'd like to have a cup of coffee. Is there any coffee? They'd say yes. And then she's like, is it fresh? And that would be the second question. And they would say yes. Now, this has relevance because, typically, almost all the time, they'd bring a cup of coffee out and it was not fresh. And my mother would ask, what time was it made? And they would say, oh, it was made at 6 a.m. and it's now 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. So that's not considered fresh. It's just like if someone made your food and said it was fresh, but it's been sitting under a heat lamp for a couple of hours. So same concept, and I think that carries a lot with kind of where they're going with this is, a fresh drip cup of coffee will tell you a lot. Is it warm? Is it cold? Does it taste fresh? Does it taste stale? You could have a hot cup of coffee, but the coffee tastes not fresh, if you know what I'm talking about here. Another thing too, and this isn't in this article, but something that I look at and I think is interesting is, talking about from the standpoint of a shot of espresso. You pull a shot of espresso. Is there crema on top of the espresso? Crema is just kind of the golden seal that comes out when you pull a shot of espresso, and you have the black substance making up the full body of the espresso shot. But then there should be a thick, somewhat thick crema on top. And I'll tell you, I've been to some coffee shops, and I've not had crema, and I've had more coffee grounds than crema. That tells me a lot about the shop, and that should tell you a lot about the shop as well, or the restaurant. If you go to a restaurant and you have the same type of issues, if the food was coming out bad or if it was coming out cold, that tells you that this place isn't really well organized. So moving on here, let's go to the next one. So baristas aren't shy about asking for the house specialty. Now this is important because I feel like the house specialty, or when you go up to a restaurant, you go to a restaurant, you ask the waiter or waitress, what do you recommend? That's a popular thing. It's no different than a coffee shop. Same thing. The barista should know what's popular, and they should also have tried it. There's nothing worse or scary when you go to a restaurant or a coffee shop and you say, hey, what do you recommend? And they're looking at you clueless because they haven't tried anything on the menu. And I'll tell you, that's a big no-no, even for us at Hot Shots. Everybody at Hot Shots that works with us, all of our baristas are professionally trained. But not only that, they have tried our products numerous times. A lot of times I make sure that they try the product. Whether it's the milk or the shot of espresso or what have you. I don't care if they don't absolutely love coffee or whatever, but they are trying the product and making sure the product is fresh and ready to go for our end user, the customer. So I think that's important. Now, the next one here, they talk about create a lighter holiday drink year-round with sugar-free syrups. I don't know what that means. I think it really goes to the next one, which they talk about skipping milk and sugar allows you to really taste the quality of the beans. And I think that's true in some respects. So, skip the milk and sugar. If you want to see what the quality of a coffee shop is and how good it is, you want to know what the coffee is. Just like going back to where we were talking about the coffee that you just a fresh roasted cup of coffee, or the pulling the shot of espresso, and how important that is to the overall quality, and just tasting it the way it is. If you add milk, you add sugar, you start hiding things, in my opinion. Same thing goes with, a pumpkin spice latte or something else crazy. You typically don't want to go to a coffee shop and order that straight off the bat. That typically won't give you the best experience of not knowing what the quality of the coffee shop is. Let's just put it that way, because that's what we're all about right here in this article, is trying to find out the quality of a coffee shop, not really what's their best drink. So talking about that, now one thing I will say is, yes, the sugar, adding sugar, taking sugar away, really doesn't it changes the drink, but it's not going to add any value. Let's put it that way. What I would argue on this, though, is if you add a little bit of milk or cream, and I've done this in my videos, if you watch the 2019 Top 5 Coffee that we did on YouTube, when you add a little bit of cream, it changes the presentation of the coffee or the espresso, and therefore it will kind of give you some flavors that are kind of hidden from the acidity and the harshness sometimes of some of these coffees, or the boldness, I should say, of some of these coffees. You can actually really get in depth and kind of see what the undernotes are, I guess is the best way to describe it. But what other notes, the undernotes, are in the coffee or espresso. So the next thing they say, sensitive stomachs might consider switching to dark roast. I think that's a good point. You might want to switch to dark roast if, dark roast is less acidic. But I will tell you, there's good coffee out there that isn't that acidic. And I wouldn't say it's a dark roast. So keep that in mind too. But yeah, if you have a sensitive stomach or what have you, yeah, go the darkest. In theory, go the darkest route. I guess you can go, but at the same time, I would say, if you can go to a good coffee shop, you really shouldn't have too much acidity in the coffee. You shouldn't have too much overpowerment, and you can ask that. That would be a great question to ask the baristas starting off. If you have stomach issues, what is a great medium or light roast coffee that you have, or I should say dark roast coffee that you have, something that's not acidic. Low acidity is what you want to ask for. Then they say try a cortado for the less intense version of espresso. Confusion thing here is I get it. Espresso, everyone gets fearful and thinks it's so intense, it's so much caffeine. Really, espresso has less caffeine than a cup of coffee, good cup of coffee, but that's something to think about. Basically, a cortado is half. So whatever the part, if you say 1 part espresso, it has 1 part milk or dairy of some sort. So it has equal parts of both, if that makes sense. And yes, actually, what I have almost every day is kind of like a cortado, but I put cold milk in a cup, halfway full, and then I fill the other half up with espresso. And the way I like it is it does take the edge off of espresso, but like I said, going back to it, you shouldn't need to take the edge off of a good shot of espresso. Sometimes people even do the rind of lemons and things like that. I almost feel that's insulting, but that is something else too that's interesting. But a cortado, yes, it can help if you are kind of afraid to try an espresso, or you just don't want that much. You think it's overly powering with caffeine. But really, it comes down to the taste. I like to do it just because I can put some cold milk, shot of espresso. I can down it as soon as it comes out, and I'm ready to go. And that's pretty much it for the article. But, and that's what this whole kind of very first podcast is all about. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to plan on doing some more here. If you haven't followed us yet, definitely check us out on our various different social media platforms. Hot Shots Catering on YouTube, or on Facebook, Instagram, all these different platforms. But we're really excited about putting this together and bringing you guys some good content in a podcast form and some knowledge base. I would also say that, if you want to find out more, or you have questions about who we are or what we do, wherever this ends up, a couple things is, one, I want you to tell me and tell us, what do you want to hear about this podcast? What else do you want to know? Maybe there's something either in the industry of food and catering that you have questions on, or our services, the gourmet coffee catering experience, the gourmet coffee experience, I should say. We can help you with that. Or if you have just any general questions, what's a good cup of coffee? We get questions all the time. What's a great cup of roast, I should say, what's a good bag of coffee to get, or a good type of coffee to get, that you could get locally? We got videos on that. Is there anything, how often do you clean your espresso machine or coffee maker? I got videos on that. So there's all kinds of things that you guys can ask, and we want to put it together in a form so that you guys are able to kind of consume it and help you out in your daily lives, whether it's with coffee or if it's planning an event. I have a lot of brides and people asking me questions about that and that field too. So, however we can help you, we want to hear about it. And wherever this ends up, please leave some comments. Let us know what you want to see in the future for Hot Shots Catering's podcast. Don't really have a formal name yet, but YouTube, we have Hot Shots TV. We'll have to find out something for this, but if you have any ideas, leave it in the comments section. All right, thank you guys, and we'll talk to you again soon.